Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the moments+peace podcast. My name is Mike with my lovely wife, Nereida, and today we are continuing our series on homeschooling through high school. So today we are going to be talking about the practical resources that you need to give your kids essential life skills. So while we would say that the most important life skill anybody can have is a relationship with the Lord Jesus and knowledge of his word, we did an entire video on that very topic about all the resources that help you train your kids in the faith, to defend their faith, the apologetics, the love for the Lord, and all that. We did a whole video on that, so you can check that one out. There's a link to it below. But this video, we are going to be talking, this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about the practical life skills that your kids need. We might call it some street smarts and some book smarts. So there are a number of things that you want your kids to know as they launch out of your house, like how to make sure that they brush their teeth every day is a great one. You start that one young. But how to balance a checkbook, how to manage finances, how to change a tire, how to change oil, how to clean a house, how to do laundry. Also, like how to handle academic studies if they go on to college and want to do other academic rigor, how to manage your schedule, how to have good time management, how to have good hygiene. A number of things that when you launch your kids out, you want them to have those skill sets in place already. You know, you don't want to be scrambling senior year like, oh man, I got to teach this kid how to brush his teeth. I skipped that one. Whoops. Or, man, this kid doesn't know how to do laundry. He's going to go out on his own and he doesn't know how to manage his checkbook. Do they have a checkbook? He doesn't know how to manage his online banking account, his online banking service or whatever. Like, you want to have those tools in their toolbox that they know how to use. And so today's video is all about that. So, Nereida, what would you say are your top 5?
Ooh, that's
We're going to link it. We're going to boil it down, boilerplate here. Top 5 life skills type resources that you used in our homeschool that really helped our kids. Now, granted, pause, just know that we've launched out one kid, and then we've got the second one on the way. So we're still in the process. So there might be, stuff we learn over the next couple of years.
Well, it's great because she's already came back to, like, I wish you would have,
Oh, yeah.
So that's great. So I'll share some of that. But we do have a son that's getting ready to launch out in a few months, and it's so different. And we can talk about those differences later. But yeah, that's a hard one. So I don't know if I can streamline it to like just 5, but I can make it pretty basic.
What would be the number one? Like, start with the most important.
The life factory and the life skills. So there's phase 1 and phase 2. So you just go to the life skills and or the etiquette factory. She is awesome. Yeah. And I know a lot of people think, oh, etiquette, what but it really does matter. It actually gives short clip videos. And we did this a couple of days a week. And it's like 5 or 10 minutes long. The videos and the discussion, sometimes we reenacted and talked about certain things. So some of the things on there, it's like, when you're eating popcorn, not licking your fingers and putting them back in there. But it also talks about like how when somebody drops their books, you're not laughing at them, you're picking them up. Not to laugh at the homeless, what it's like to be, dressed right and well for a particular occasion, how to behave at a funeral, what's proper etiquette at a funeral, what's proper gifting at certain year mark anniversaries. It talks about how to deal with the elderly and how young people should stand up and give their seat always for an elderly person or for a woman. It talks about how when you should serve the elderly first and the youngest should wait. Mm-hmm. And we have that kind of reverse. It talks about the American style and the British style of how to cut your fork and leave your plate to know when you're done, which is important for interview skills now in days where interviews and business meetings happen over food. It talks about keeping your home and what it's like to borrow things and return them correctly in the correct time frame. It talks about how you should basic life skill stuff through and through. And it's like 142-ish lessons. And then there's like a midterm project and exam, and there's like 3 questions that you just ask every day that they can do independently, or we just did it right there when we did the videos and stuff. And it's phenomenal. Like, I absolutely loved it. I love the fact that when someone just drops by your house, you are not obligated etiquette wise to answer the door, because they dropped by unannounced.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready, and the videos are comedic and it shows you the appropriate and inappropriate way to do it, like not having your phone when you're eating, and like how to talk to about your day. So overall, it's skills for life that you're going to take in the business place, in the place of worship. It talks about how to behave in the house of God. And like, I mean, just basic training that our generation has lost.
Yep.
And kind of needs to go back to those roots, and just common decency. I love how I think it's it's 1 Corinthians 14:40 where it says, everything should be done with decency and in order. And this etiquette class really does show that. And there's a lot of teenagers, and it talks about hygiene and like deodorant, or when you have onions, and what's appropriate or not appropriate to do, so across the board, they're going to use it. We don't know how many times we go back to it, and it says about 4th grade to 12th grade, and literally it's appropriate for that whole range. So there really is no excuse to not do it. The Etiquette Factory, it is literally great. Then there's a phase 2 that is definitely geared towards high school, and that one breaks down different modules that have automobile and how to take care for your automobile and the terms and how to check for certain fluids. And then there's one for housekeeping, how to properly sweep and clean your house and move certain furniture based on your cleanliness and certain times of year. Then it talks about a resume and how to build a resume, and how to dress even if you're going to a McDonald's interview, and giving that visual and that audible like sound for it. It talks also about the different career paths you can take, whether you were a high school dropout becoming a brain surgeon, and how the different paths can wind, how to use the military to leverage certain things. It talks about how you just go to a straight 4-year college, how to set goals, how to break down those goals from 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, down to the months and the days, time management for the day. It talks about mortgage terms and rental terms and utility bills and how to read them. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic materials. And they're video based. And there is some downloadable workbooks, or you can get them sent out. A lot of people do them in a form of co-op. We did it. We just did them at home. They're great. They take anywhere from like 5 to 15 minutes. The videos, the questions, talking, and it's like indispensable information. It's so good. Like, I learned stuff from it, and
I think that people,
I enjoyed it.
I think we take for granted that our kids are just going to somehow know that stuff.
Yeah, and
I've seen so many people say, well, why don't you know that? Why don't you let your account go negative? Why'd you let that happen? It's like, well, did someone along the way teach that kid how to not spend every dime in their account? Or, didn't pay a utility bill on time when they're in their 30s? Or I guess it wouldn't take that long to figure it out. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
if they take you for granted the fact that, well...
You have to be intentional in teaching these things. And
yeah.
I love how they break it down in different modules. And you can spend your time however you need on one. It's about a week or two, either 1 week or 2 weeks long per module, and it's so good.
Yeah.
Another thing would be to follow up with that is the Dave Ramsey streamlining service for the entrepreneurship and it's almost like financial peace, but condensed for high schoolers and middle schoolers. We did the middle school, the high school, and the entrepreneurship one, and it is
what's that
fantastic.
One called?
It's just it's the Dave Ramsey Finance Homeschool, I think it's called. And
there's a workplace one called Smart Dollar for employers to use in their workplace that I remember talking through.
And it has Rachel Cruz.
Yeah.
It has
their whole team of hosts and personalities. It is amazing.
Yeah. And they talk and there is a difference between the middle school and the high school one. So in case anybody wants to know about that, there is. And it interviews, certain youth people, and you get what they're thinking. But then at the same time, they make analogies and make it so simple, and they give you the terms, and it's easy to use. It's fantastic. I actually enjoyed it more than the Money Makeover and Financial Peace because it was entertaining. It was shocking. It's more up to date. And it was fun. I really, really liked it. And that, I think, is imperative because the other one will give you the terms of what a mortgage and insurance and all that means in the Life Skill Phase 2 on the Etiquette Factory website, which is or you can also go to Curriculum That Matters. But Dave Ramsey one is like the how to, like
Right.
what all this
He's
stuff
very
means
well known.
and what's
I
the
mean-
consequences if you don't,
Yeah.
do it this way, and what you can accomplish. Because there are success stories of young people who like worked really hard and paid cash for a house, like from the time they were young, and then just teaching them entrepreneurship skills, and then he's also very respectful based on like, well, ask your parents and or talk with your parents, and it's great. Like even just if your parents are paying for your personal stuff, just ask them to start paying you and asking you to pay for a portion of like the deodorant or my dance classes or all that, so that they're paying their coaches and they're buying their hygiene stuff. If it's already budgeted in your parents'
Right.
budget,
Basically
but they can't give you money, you can still know how to operate money with that.
Right. So it's like getting a piece of responsibility when the parent hands the kid the money, and then the kid goes to the karate teacher or whatever and says, "Hey, here's my portion," or I'm going to Walmart and buying my own stick of deodorant. And it's like you're going and checking out, like you're taking some sort of little pieces of ownership of the financial world.
I thought was a great idea, and we actually implemented that. And then to take it a step further, beyond personal finance.
That's what I was going to bring up. So that's number 3. We're on top 5 still. So Etiquette Factory is number 1, including the life skills. Mm-hmm. Then number 2 would be the Dave Ramsey Finance Program, and then Beyond Personal Finance
is my kid's favorite.
I loved it.
We
I thought
did
it was great.
with a group of kids, and it's like the game of life with a spin wheel, where it tells you stuff like, "Oh, your mother-in-law gave you a $5,000 gift, and oh, you had twins," or you spin the wheel all electronically, and it's so fun when you do it with a group of people. So there's a workbook, and then there's a group of people, and it's a homeschool mom, a local homeschool mom. So we love the fact that she's also homeschool, but she's in conventions, and you can go to Beyond Personal Finance. Mm-hmm. And she also teaches classes live, and she also has classes if you're in the local area. In person, but she is fantastic. She breaks down the same principles as Dave Ramsey, but you go through each segment actually living
like if
life.
You're in
you
life.
Picked a career.
You make your decisions.
Now you've been laid off from your career, or you now have retirement to think of. Oh, you bought a house. What kind of house are you going to buy? What kind of car are you going to buy? Are you going to have an animal? Look how much it's going to cost you. And every time you have a budget from one unit that comes onto the next unit, and you see how you did in life based on your personal choices. And it's great.
It's like a role-playing...
It's like the game of life.
Yeah, you're walking through and making
principles
decisions in this fake world with fake... but it's teaching you to think about the fact that, oh, wait, if I make a decision at this point in the game, later in the game, it's going to... It's not even a game. It's more like just a training module.
I had 3 kids, and some were planned, some were not. Now it's time for them to go to school. What's my educational choice? Mm-hmm. Well, it costs me money for this. It costs me money for this, and it costs me money for this. Yep. But I think I'm going to homeschool because of what that cost looks like. And
what I really loved about her approach too is that she would go through and do an explainer video, just looking in the camera and explaining, "Hey, when you get your paycheck, you have taxes that are taken out. There are 4 different types. There's federal, state, Social Security, and Medicare. And all those things come out of your check. Before you see your actual check, those things are taken off the top." And explaining all that. And some of the kids in the group were freaking out. Like, wait, you mean that I earn $12 an hour, but I only actually bring home $8 an hour or whatever it was? And we're like, yeah, that's why taxes matter. That's why who's in the White House matters. That's why who's in Congress matters, because
it was great discussions. Great, even to the point where it's like, I can't even afford a fish. It's $35 a year for a fish, but look what happened to me here. Or now, is my wife going to stay home, or am I going to stay home? Well, she makes more than me. So one of the students was like, well, my wife's going to have to work for a little longer until I can get my next raise. So it was like really interesting dynamics, and it's fun when you can do it with other people. We did it on a Saturday over the summer, and we did 2 to 3 lessons at a time, so it can be done at a faster accelerated pace, but it's normally about a semester long.
But watching the videos as a group was cool because they could all interact.
And after she explains everything, and you do stuff in your workbook, and you set your new budget changes, because sometimes she'll give you did great in your evaluation, so now you're going to get a raise, or the company's making cuts. But then you get to spin the wheel, which you just click the mouse on your computer, and you spin the wheel, and it can have anything thinking good or bad, and one of it's like you need a new crown, or you were just in
Yeah,
a car
you need
accident
4
because you hit a
tires and-
deer.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, just
so
random
it was
stuff.
like actual real life stuff that happened. And then there's other ones that like your basement flooded and now you have to pay your insurance. And then there's other ones where it was like, your beloved aunt just passed away and left you 15 grand. What are you going to do with the money?
Yeah.
Do you go to Disney or not? And so
Right.
it was like really interesting ways to get the kids thinking practically. And
Yep.
it was awesome. It was one of our most fun experiences in homeschooling. So
Yep.
I would say that Beyond Personal Finance, absolutely a great one. And then the other one are some books that kind of tie in with that is 48 Days to the Work You Love
Dan Miller.
or The Life That You Want. It talks about work-life balance and what your passion is and how to use your skills and life for that. It also goes through interview questions and stuff. And then the other one is 5 Things Every Christian Should Know by R.C. Sproul.
That's a good one.
Because it talks about how to pray, how to worship, how to tithe. And in his tithing, he talks about tithing and what it is and how you should manage that. But then also savings, that saving prevents you from being in debt and tied down and more able to be with God and stuff. And so I think that one is very practical. Just 5 things every Christian should know. Do hard things. Just about hard work. It throws back to, George Washington times and how he was a surveyor and just how our generation has kind of wimped out and how we need to get, back into it. So I would say 48 days, 5 things every Christian should know,
do
hard things. And then I want to say I took some notes here. Okay. And another one would be if we're just talking about like worldview and character, I would say the Sandy Queen has some pretty cool ones based on Daniel, from the book of Daniel, and how his work ethic, and she has one on purity. She has one on like loving your neighbor, going through like 1 Corinthians. So those are great for character.
On farming and gardening.
Yeah, homesteading, farming. Yeah, all of that.
Because that would be helpful for any of you who maybe live in a more rural area and you know that you want to teach your kids to homestead or garden, but you don't know how to practically just lay it all out for them. Sandy Queen has a great resource on that.
So I would definitely check those out. And she also has one on public speaking. That's a great one, public speaking. And then I would also say Kickstart from Kevin Swanson. That's how you kickstart your life. So it talks about practical stuff, including using like the Proverbs a lot that give wisdom and direction and life. And Road Trip to Truth, going back to that one, because your kids' worldview will be challenged. There's 3 DVD series now. They talk about anxiety. They talk about depression. They talk about pornography addiction. They talk about evolution, creationism, what is the gospel, what is the true gospel, like how to defend your faith, the proof of the resurrection, why Easter matters, every important doctrinal issue along with some social issues. That's what they're on college campuses. Yeah. So whether they're in the workforce or what I would consider even the college campuses being more hostile than the workforce, that's definitely one that needs to be there. And before we go to talking about college, I do want to say, like, before you send your kid off to college and before you go and just launch them out, like thoroughly check and see, will they have a support group? Will they have a good, solid, biblical church? Yeah, because you got to think, it's shocking to take 18, 19-year-old kid, sometimes some as young as 17, and even a 20-year-old, and you put them into a new town, a new city, new streets that they have to learn. They may have a car, they may not have a car. They may
new environment completely.
New environment. Where's the church? No friends, no family, and
everything's new. Everything's
new
reestablished.
That is shocking, and that is hard. It can be exciting, and some adapt completely well, and it's great. But other ones are traumatizing. And then another thing that most people don't think about is their roommates, and what are their roommates? Yeah. Addicted to, not, and more importantly, self-harm and suicide happens a lot, especially that first semester in school, in college. And we know of a lot of kids who they personally had struggles with, or one girl had to talk to her mom because of how hard it was. And her mom had to encourage her because her roommate kept dealing with self-harm and suicide attempts, and then attempted, and her daughter walked in on a suicide attempt and had to be the ones to call the authorities and check on your
a lot of
babies.
trauma.
And that's a lot of trauma because you don't know who they're going to be around, what those other people are struggling, even if your child's okay. And then there's other kids who don't transition well. And sometimes it's a culture shock to take them from somewhere up north or even a little bit more like modern, like where we are, and take them deep south. They don't transition well, and just let them know it's always okay to come back home. It's always okay to talk to you. It's okay if they don't transition well.
And that doesn't mean failure. It doesn't mean that they tried college and failed. It means that they tried college and that it either, because of the circumstances, like something traumatic like that, that it didn't work out for them, and they just keep going forward and not looking back with regret, thinking, oh no, I messed up and I failed at this, instead of, no, failure is actually a good thing. You fail your way towards success. You try something and it works or it doesn't work, and it is one step. Like Thomas Edison, I didn't fail all these times. I just found 999 ways not to build a light bulb, and now I made one. It's always towards success, and failure being a good thing.
And think about the medical doctors, and we have a type 1 diabetic son, and we know a couple of type 1 diabetics. They want to go here and they want to go there. But in reality, no matter how much the doctors want to tell you that, you can live like anyone else, you can eat like everyone else, no, that's not true. You are bound to where your medicine is available, not available, your endocrinologist, and more importantly, whether or not you're going to go into insulin shock in the middle of the night because nobody is there to see you and to help you. So
there's limitations.
Yeah, there's
across
this kid,
the board.
like almost a perfect score on the ACT test, and he could not go to school in Boston. He just couldn't, even though he could get a full ride.
Yeah, because
and he had
he's
to take
type 1
advantage of fear
and has to be close by a support
because he
system.
had no support system.
Because that's the thing that's always overlooked in the classic American dream of sending your kids off to some school somewhere, is that you're taking them away from their worldview and their influence, and you're putting all new influence, which, I kind of think is a purposeful thing. I think that there's a certain degree of unnecessary college happening where you don't really need to go to college. A lot of people are going there, and all they're doing is getting exposed to other worldviews, changing their worldview, changing their beliefs, and that's why the system's set up the way it is. Mm-hmm. And honestly, unless you really need to go to college, you should really pursue whatever's going to start a business, apprenticeship, trades. Get into something,
or
do
pay
some
for a college with
online
a godly
training,
worldview.
Local college. There's something about staying with the support system. A man isolated to himself seeks his own desire. Mm-hmm. And that means if you can isolate someone away from all the influences that they've known, drop them into a new environment where the influences are completely contrary, then it's a hassle. Now, there are great Christian colleges out there that still...
They're not perfect, but they're great.
But they're great, and they hold the line with Scripture, and they have communities that are all sharing that like-mindedness.
And I would say to that, Answers in Genesis has a college expo, usually in November every year at the Ark, and you can go there and talk to colleges personally. Teach them diligently is another conference that's great that hosts a lot of biblical colleges.
Reformation Bible College in Florida.
Absolutely a great one.
They have a great online campus, or they have a great in-person campus community vibe where they're all like on the same page. And you don't have to worry about those influences of, they're doing frat parties and staying out drinking.
And in Cary, North Carolina, Shepherd's Church has a diploma program for those who don't have an undergrad. That's great. If you want theology, studies in theologies or counseling, which is also really great. And I would just say, if your kid really, really wants to go to college, and you know that they do, go visit it in 9th grade year, 11th grade year. Go visit it both times. Go talk to all the people, talk to graduates, and then start attending. Take a longer weekend and go and attend different churches that are recommended. And
in that area.
And and then find them a good urgent doctor or something like that.
And try to paint a picture what life would look like in them planted in that community.
Ask people within the church, hey, do you know a good car mechanic? Because I know a kid who went to school 4 hours away who had to call his parents because his car had to get towed. He didn't know where to go for a mechanic. It's like little things like these that I'm telling you, like we know kids who have gone to college, totally succeeded, totally been fine, and parents that put like a guard, like, okay, you're allowed to go to within these 3 states, you're allowed to go within 8 hours, because they want to be able to drive in 8 hours, they want you to be able to come home, they want to be able to get to you, and
they
then
don't want to have to fly to get you, or if something were to happen, God forbid.
Some people we know graduated their kids and they're like, you're only going to a Christian school. That's all we're paying for. And, so definitely do your homework and all of that.
Yeah.
And then for the last thing I would say for life skills is whether you're going to college, whether you're going to the workplace, whether they're doing a high school social, whether they're just driving their friends around, teach your kids street smarts. Now, the culture that we live in is very much out of my comfort zone because I pretty much was raised like in the hood. And so I bring a different perspective to our marriage. I bring a different, and I'm also Puerto Rican. Like, we're totally different than white American culture parenting. And
very different.
Very different. We're
Though
stricter. We don't do spending the night.
Yep.
Like we know we want to know the who, what, when, where, how questions. And
you're leaning into your parenting. You're not leaning back from a place of basically laziness. You're leaning in saying, I need to know the details of what's happening. And I think there's a lot of more cultures that welcome grandma living with them and having a generational view.
The door closed or knocking and asking permission, like, no, this is my house. You're going to leave the door open.
Right. That kind of street smarts. Like having, and what would be just discernment, like clear discernment about somebody's intentions, what's going on.
Parents need to be home. You're not allowed to have people over when you're home alone. And also when you're going out to parties or friends or whoever's house it is, teach them to don't take a drink, even if it's bottled water, unless it's their own sealed cap that they're breaking open.
Right.
Don't leave it and then go to the bathroom and come back and drink it. You don't know what they're going to put in there.
Because somebody can be very naive and just say, well, I wouldn't think that anybody would put anything in my drink. But if you come from the streets and you live in the hood, you know that people are sinful and they're evil and that people have evil intentions and that things could happen. And you're thinking through the what if on the worst case scenarios, not to live in a constant state of anxiety, but to know that that is a possibility, meaning that if you are walking down a street and it's dark, you shouldn't have your earbuds in blasting music.
Or going on a run with one earbud in or both of them.
You should have your eyes looking at your surroundings because it is a possibility that somebody could rob you or hurt you or kill you. That is a possibility.
Force you in their car.
A lot of people, you have to teach them from a young age. You can't get away from mom and dad when you're at the store because, as a lot of parents say this, somebody could get you. And I remember seeing a lady at Walmart the other day. She was like, get over here. Somebody could get you in this store. And there's reports on the news.
That's comforting to me because living in the South, from being from up north, like being in the South, people are so like lax and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, y'all are
it's
crazy.
All the biscuits
you
and gravy.
need to lock your door.
It's just like, man, the biscuits and gravy mellow you out.
The idea of like not locking your doors at night, like in your car and not leaving your porch lights on and all.
I guess it's just
foreign.
It's a different way of looking at the world of optimism versus pessimism or being naive or overly cautious. Like you could go to either extreme.
Yeah.
So there is a healthy balance of just making sure, bad things could happen. So watch your back.
Yeah.
Make sure that you know what's happening around you. It's not a bad idea when you go to the grocery store to have a can of pepper spray or mace or having a firearm.
And park by the light. Park by the entrance. If you're over there by yourself or you're uncomfortable, ask for the security guard to come with you.
Yeah.
Pumping
Those
your
type
gas.
Of street
Stop
smarts.
looking at certain gas stations you shouldn't go to.
Now, we actually don't have a recommendation for a resource for that. In fact, maybe you should make one. But there's I think we watched a couple YouTube videos that will walk through some of that stuff. But I mean, really, I don't know any other way to put it. I just told
my kids from experience. I've just taught my kids from experience. My sister, my dad, they all work in law enforcement. It's just you hear stories, stories. Don't shelter your kids at a certain point. The man is depraved. You've got to just have evil hearts. You just have to let them know the reality of that evil. And from a little age, don't let someone touch you. Don't let this and that. These.
And a Christian worldview gives you that informed mind to know, well, this is how people are, and this is what is possible. And though you may not. People in law enforcement are most exposed to the evils of society, and they see what people are capable of.
And having that career field trip with the DARE program and having them talk, the officers reinforced that. And I
Yep.
would say talk to a local officer. We had 2 local officers. We homeschooled in 3 states, and in Florida and in North Carolina, we had officers both times tell us, don't give your kid a phone under age 16.
Yeah.
And if you do, you need to filter that thing. You need to give them time limits. You need to take the phone away. But
Yep.
honestly, we would say not 16 and under, do not do it.
And even social media,
two
too.
different people. Yeah, and social media. So I would say, like, if your kids are exposed to all the social media and exposed to pornography and our world is hostile, we have to be on the front lines teaching them
Yep.
what's wise, what's not
And
wise.
leaning in.
And leaning in. Talk about
Yeah.
drugs. If you don't want to talk about it and you're uncomfortable with it, we had the officers show them what fentanyl looked like and how it looks like candy and what, or meth or whatever. Like, talk to your kids about drugs, talk to your kids about alcohol, talk to your kids. And I
So
would
that they have those life skills when they go out to be adults. Mm-hmm. Now, one more thing I wanted to touch on about...
And Proverbs talks all about drinking, talks all about,
intoxicating
wise.
thing.
Yeah.
One more thing that we didn't really touch on with the other video about spiritual resources, but this is a crossover. It covers both. And that is, we'll end with this one, I guess, Dr. Jason Lyle's Logic course. So Dr. Jason Lyle, very, very familiar with the Answers in Genesis ministry, has his own biblical creation science ministry thing that he's doing now. And so he has a wonderful course on logic. It teaches you how to think critically, which goes towards street smarts. It goes towards having arguments and goes towards apologetics and defending the faith, of being able to understand the difference between logical fallacies that people are sharing, that they think that they're being logical and orderly in their arguments, and in reality they're using some sort of fallacy, some sort of fake logic, not true. So his course, I think, really helped our kids who you can operate a lot off of feeling. A lot of arguments can turn into feeling fights.
That's a big one he teaches on emotionalism, name calling. Then it's like they've lost all rationale, they lost all reasoning.
And like Ben Shapiro says, facts don't care about your feelings. And I got the little leftist tears thing right here. Like, facts don't care about your feelings. It's about being factual and logical. And his course is phenomenal. It can equip your kids to think critically and biblically, ultimately, because all truth is God's truth and all logic is God's logic, and God is the author of logic, which is transcendental. Logic is not...
he says, it's right thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, right thinking about all issues. So I would say, if we go back down our list as a point of review, we talked about the Etiquette Factory with the life skills, Dave Ramsey's finance course, Beyond Personal Finance. You mentioned some other resources like Do Hard Things, 5 Things Every Christian Should Know. Kickstart from Kevin Swanson, 48 Days to the Work You Love by Dan Miller, Road Trip to Truth, The Worldview, what was it?
I think worldview and conflicts, and just making sure that your worldview is solid and that they have that, equipped with Road Trip to Truth. And Worldview and Conflicts is a great course because it'll actually take like bands like Nirvana, Katy Perry, all of that, teach them what that worldview was. Shakespeare's Macbeth.
Oh, yeah.
It'll talk about
so
like
they can
movies.
Think critically about,
and it's like you can pick out what worldview that is, and then what that led them to, and then why it's wrong compared to a biblical worldview. It's literally how these are constantly in conflict with each other. And so it's a great course. I love it.
And then we talked about the need for street smarts for some basic skills.
Yeah, trust your gut. Something don't seem right. Trust that discernment.
And we talked earlier, of course, about the basic things in your house, cooking, cleaning, and chores. We should actually do a whole video on home management.
Yes, and don't send your kids off to college if they don't know how to do a laundry, if they don't know how to clean. Don't even give them an iPhone. Why would you give them an iPhone if they don't know how to do the laundry? They don't know how to scrub a toilet. Yeah. Those are things that they have to learn, and they need to learn it. Yeah.
And then, of course, logic. I mean, but maybe that should have been the first one, but we really have to think critically and know how to defend our faith and go out there into the world. And in the workplace, no matter what you're doing, you have to be able to be a logical, rational human being. And so that's a great course for that. We will do our best to link everything we've mentioned so that you can go and find these resources online. You can just click a link and shop for them. And we'll do our best to compile that list so that it's there in the show notes and or description on YouTube if you're watching it there. Make sure that you like and subscribe. You can ring the bell notification if you're watching this on YouTube to continue to get updates of our new videos as we're doing this Homeschool through High School series. This is kind of like our breaking into doing podcasting and videoing with this series, so we're hoping it's a blessing to you. If you're watching or listening on iTunes for podcasting. Make sure you subscribe, and if you leave a review, it would actually help us tremendously to get the attention of other people looking for this type of content. So we really hope that you become a peacemaker in your house. And for my wife Nereida and myself, Mike, we are signing off, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.